grounded theory approach. I can go into detail later on, and I've used intersectionality. As a matter of fact, intersectionality gives me this edge. So I'm not talking about all headscarf women, but I'm rather talking about a particular segment of professional women, and a particular segment of headscarf women and their experiences in the labor market. As I have said earlier, women's labor market participation, labor force participation is dropping. In 2009, World Bank report, as a matter of fact, looked at, they have reviewed many Turkish, English printed reports and papers and books. And what they've come up with, that is a Turkish puzzle. Turkey, compared to the similarly religious, similar economic development level countries, are doing worse. And we don't get it, basically. That's the OECD countries are, labor market participation is increasing. The countries which are similar to, again, religiosity to Turkey are again in rise, in increasing. That's around like 40%, 30–40%. And also the literature in general, which makes an account of the tradition, which makes an account of the transformation from rural to urban populations, like in the Turkish case, are suggesting that, well, there's going to be a U-curve. The labor market discrimination will decrease to a point, and then it will jump up. But that's not happening in Turkey. Again, still, it's an important, interesting puzzle. Basically, the conclusion of that particular report, which was a very extensive report, is that it's the patriarchal values and lack of the social state, which is true. The social state doesn't really help much in terms of the child care and adult care to ease up women's gender role responsibilities. And also, yes, Turkey is a patriarchal society which have strict gender roles for men and women, but still, is that all? How all? Or is the headscarf ban had anything to do with this drop? So that was my research question, and my finding is that yes, there is. My finding is that yes, there is, because women, headscarf professional women, have hard time in access to labor market. When most of the companies are not entertaining women with headscarves, even when they first look at their CVs. So when the women send off their CVs, either they don't put any picture on the CV, so they get the interview, and in the interview they were say, well, I mean, your background is wonderful, but I mean, would you consider taking off your scarf while you are working? Or if the CV is a headscarf, has a headscarf picture, then they don't get any interviews. So, and the ones who get the jobs are usually the ones who are working in small companies with long hours and experience another form of discrimination in the workplace, and that is the company do not really want the person with the headscarf be the face of the company. So what they do is, if they hire a woman with a headscarf, they rather put her in the back rooms of the company so that they are not seen by the customers or by the people who would come and visit the company. Şimdi if that woman is a pink collar worker, if that woman is an office worker, is a secretary, that's not a big deal. You just put her to the back room and she just works there. But the professional jobs are the jobs that you need to be in relationship with, in face-to-face relationship with other companies, other people, and most of the time state agencies. So therefore, if you are not the person who go to the meetings, then naturally, quote unquote naturally, you don't get promoted. You don't get the type of job that you deserve, and your promotion is hindered. I'm going to give you examples because I know that it's too abstract. It's not abstract, but it's too foreign to kind of grasp right away. For example, if that person is a pharmacist, and in Turkey, pharmacists have their own shops. Then you may say, okay, she's a pharmacist and she may be headscarf, she can just mind her own business. And no, that's not true, because then, as a pharmacist, when you think about the country, around 60-some% of population had a state insurance. So you have to deal with SGK, you have to deal with state bureaus and agencies to get payments, to make deals, etc. So you as a pharmacist are, if you are not welcomed or not really looked nicely in the offices that you go, then you're in trouble. So what you do is you usually hire another pharmacist, either with no headscarf or with no or man. Or military again, with if you are selling, if you have engagement with or let's take another example like lawyers. You may say, well, lawyers, again, may have their, in Turkey, lawyers have their own offices. But if you're a lawyer, you cannot enter to court with a headscarf. So then, what do? Even though you are a great lawyer, let's say you're a divorce lawyer, you settle divorces very nicely and everything, you do your investigation thoroughly, but if you cannot represent your client in the court, then nobody would want to hire you. So these are the solo practices. So let's go to more like institutional. If you want to work if you are a lawyer and want to work for a company, that company cannot send you to court to defend their case, or that company cannot send you to a client to make a business meeting. So what happens is that it's not really the people who are employing, who are not employing headscarf women are quote unquote bad people or prejudiced people, but the nature of because of the headscarf ban, that political process had a structural impact on the labor market relations. So I call this spillover effect of the headscarf ban. So it's not just that the individual employees one by one is making a discrimination and saying that I don't really like the headscarf women, but rather when you employ a headscarf woman, then you cannot utilize that labor to the extent that you would employ a man or a woman with no headscarf. So it's the nature of or let's take a journalist. If you are a journalist in Turkey, and if you are wearing a headscarf. You can be a brilliant journalist, but you cannot enter to universities to follow a news. You cannot enter to Grand National Assembly to follow a news. You cannot, enter to any political process because of the headscarf. So, regardless of how brilliant you are, because of the implications of the ban on the processes, that limits women's access. Okay, I have 3 minutes, lovely. So what I'm suggesting in this headscarf, in this report, is that headscarf ban in public jobs do exist, we know that, but even in private sector jobs, headscarf ban had a negative implication. And regardless of the intention of the institution, regardless of the intention of the individuals, structurally, the headscarf ban had this spillover effect, and that hinders women's labor market participation. And I'm saying women's labor market participation, it's not just headscarf women's labor market participation, because as we already know, it doesn't really, unless the workplace has at least 30% of women, then we can talk about childcare, then we can talk about women-friendly environment. And if you are keeping a segment of women off the labor market, then the remaining women will not be able to voice their demands fully anyway, because of the numbers in the labor market is increased. That's one result. The second result is when labor market is not welcoming towards women, then what you are doing is you are again ghettoizing women towards traditional gender roles, which in turn influence patriarchal values in the society. So in a nutshell, in 15 minutes, I guess, this research suggests that headscarf ban has impacts on the labor market, and the end result is not only related to women with headscarves, but women without the headscarves will also be influenced by it. And the mechanisms that women experience discrimination in the labor market are in the recruitments, in the promotions, and in the dismissals. When there's a need for shrinking down or downsizing in the companies, then headscarf women are the first to let go of, because they are the ones whom you don't really need to, because you cannot really utilize fully. I have just one more word and then I'll be done. My research has results in the labor market level. Labor market could not utilize women's labor force. The salaries are controlled and discriminated against women. Women's labor market participation is not perceived as a norm. It postpones the positive discrimination measures. It has implications for women, the reproduction of the traditional gender roles, ghettoization of headscarf women in lower pay, insecure jobs, secondary labor market positions. And I don't have enough time, but if you are going to be asking me, which I would love you to ask me, if these women, do they really want to work? And I can talk about that part later on. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's a great pleasure to be here. sometimes we might run a little late in starting a program. We haven't done so in this case, but I just have to apologize from the get-go that I will have to leave at 1:30 to attend an academic meeting at my university at 2 p.m. First, thank you to SETA for bringing us together at this fine time and on a very important, not so from my perspective controversial, but very significant, important issue that shapes Turkish politics, socio and economic enterprise. I also would like to thank TESEV for putting out there so many studies about the covered women, but my special thanks goes to Professor Cindoglu for undertaking this challenge and guiding us in this path. And also, very special thanks to her in recognizing the official outset of the ban as 1981. Unfortunately, in this very town and in this very academic world of ours, many so-called pundits refer to the outset of the ban as 1997 or 1998, which is